I guess I could say I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener. And it's almost beyond words, the feeling I have of just being able to be here, not only with you, but just everyone. In the course of these last few days, in especially these meetings, there have been a wide range of conversations and dialogues about consciousness and what have you. And the question that arises for me, and it partly comes out of, I think, the depth of both the questions and your responses. And I don't mean this to sound shallow at all. But what I walk out of these meetings with is this sort of sense that, man, this feels like this is a long process. And so I'm not looking for a shortcut, but my question is, what is the fastest route? Do you understand? I mean, again, I'm not asking for a shortcut, but I've been on this path way too long.
Yeah.
I mean, my first teacher came when I was a child, and I've slogged my way through for years. And I'm not getting any younger. And I'd like it to be over.
Yes. I don't know that I could express the shortest, easiest, most direct path to our true nature any better than I'm doing already. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to distill my 48 years of study and practice into a simple, easy, short, direct method of just returning to the fact of being, or being aware. And as you've noticed, particularly in the meditations, each time I language it slightly differently, come at it a slightly different way, because we're all different, and some words resonate with others, some and not with others. But they're all, I mean, this morning was an example. We just went straight to being and stayed there. I don't know how to say it any clearer. I mean, it's true that, as many of you know from over the years, that those of you that have been coming regularly, the pathway, my descriptions are getting shorter and shorter. The pathways are getting shorter and shorter. It could be that if you hang around for a few more years, that they'll be even shorter and clearer. But I don't know I don't know how much more direct and simple and clear it's possible to be. Maybe it is. Maybe there's more that I remember I used to have that feeling in my studio every time I had an exhibition. I would have the feeling is, okay, that's it. I'll stop now, because where would I go from here? And then I'd go back to my studio after the exhibition, and sure enough, there was another. So maybe it's that, and it's true. I also notice that here. I often think after a meditation, what else can I say? What? There's nothing else to say. And I come and sit down in the mornings and think, okay, I've got absolutely nothing to say. This one, actually, I have to confess. I said to Kira this morning as I was leaving the room, I said, I've got absolutely nothing to say today. I'm just going to sit in silence. And she said, oh yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. So
I think for me, It was important to ask the question to hear what your response would be. And I didn't think that you were going to pull a rabbit out of your hat. I just felt a call to ask the question, to hear what you had to say.
But Gary, it's also true that although the path back to our true nature it gets shorter and shorter and shorter. First of all, if we start on the progressive path, it's a long, winding route, and then we go onto the direct path, and we trace our way back through the layers of experience. That's much quicker and more direct. And then the pathless path, where we start with our being, we don't end up there. So the path gets shorter and shorter and shorter. Having said that, and I think this is partly what's implied in your question, the amount of time that it then takes for our entire experience, thoughts and feelings on the inside, and activities and relationships on the outside, to realign themselves with this understanding, that takes time. And in fact, I think that's a never-ending process. But we shouldn't be waiting for that process to be perfect. I don't think at the level of the mind and the body, the level of thoughts, feelings, actions, and relationships, I don't think we're ever perfect. There's always room for the body-mind to be more deeply permeated by this understanding.
Thank you.
Just to say one other thing, Gary, that I know you feel the way you formulate your question, it's like, how long is it going to take? How much longer is it going to take for me to recognize my true nature and abide there? I don't really think that's the right formulation of the question. I consider that everybody here has recognized their true nature. I have absolutely no doubt about that. That everybody during this week has had a genuine taste or recognition of their essential nature, just the fact of being or being aware. It's not quite as exotic an experience as many of us imagined it would be. So for that reason, a lot of us think, oh, I still haven't had this marvelous enlightenment experience. But enlightenment is not a marvelous experience. It's just the recognition of the nature of being. So I think in you, it's not that the recognition hasn't taken place. I think rather, and I think I mentioned this in one of the early meditations, that there is this residual impulse in us. First of all, the impulse that comes from seeking happiness in the conventional objects of the world, and then the more refined impulse to seek enlightenment in the spiritual tradition. And there is this residual impulse in us to reach for something. Even though we have actually recognized or tasted the nature of being, there's this old habit. The mind thinks, oh, no, that's not enough. No, it must be more exotic than that. So there's still this impulse. I think what you're referring to is not actually an absence of recognition. I think that recognition has taken place. It may not be stable in you, but that recognition has taken place. But there's still an old habit of 40 years of seeking, of this impulse to do something. It's that impulse that hasn't wound down yet. And I think certainly the more you stay around this group of people, the impulse will just gradually wind down and leave you in the peace of your true nature, without necessarily your ever having a marvelous enlightenment experience. You'll just wake up one day and you'll think that impulse of seeking, that straining at the edges of the now, that impulse to become, to achieve, to become enlightened, it just dies down. And that takes time in most cases.
I think the word you used, sorry, I gave the mic away, was stabilizing. And, and while you were talking, another element arose, and that was, I have felt on some level that the non-dual teachings and how they've come to me through a teacher that I had up until just recently, where it was shared in a very cryptic way, it was sort of like that Tetris game, you know, where these pieces fall and you have to line them up to make a solid platform. And with this other teacher, there were lots of gaps and holes, so I never felt like the foundation was strong. But about 8 months ago, and I can't say that for sure, and I've spent a lot of time with your videos. The pieces started to align in such a way that there was a very strong foundation.
Yes.
To the extent that I don't really have many questions to ask you. I feel like there's a knowingness when you speak. It's maybe a culmination of all these years finally coming together. And I won't say there's an excitement, but there's a comfort that's been happening under these feet in the last number of months. And maybe that's what I'm finding myself caught up in when I ask this question about. And I also agree that I think there's a habit of grasping.
Yeah.
But it's the stabilization, I think, that I'm really after.
I like your word comfort. Yes, it's the comfort of being. You just sink into it. Like sinking into a comfy sofa. Yeah. You feel that it's stable underneath you, not just getting intermittent glimpses of it. It begins to be like this solid and stable ground of being behind all your experience. You begin to trust it more and more. You relax into it more and more, and then it becomes your home, your new home.
Thank you.